Hello, hello. All right, today is More Money Monday, and it is February 24th. And we just finished up our series from DJ on business development and lead gen and setting up your database. So today we have a new topic, and we're talking about ADUs. Lawrence Cow came to our December mixer, our agent meetup that we had up here, and it was really a great meeting, actually, because every agent was from a different area and everybody had a different focus on their business. And so Lawrence has come to us in the last little bit here. Let's see if he is. 1 second. I'm getting like 10 note takers trying to log in. Hang on. Okay. So many. Who this one is. Let's see. Who is this person? Okay, how are we doing? Can you all hear me okay?
Doing great.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to turn my volume up here. Okay, so I'm waiting for Lawrence to jump in here. All right, so we usually have you put in your contact information in the chat. So if you wouldn't mind putting your contact information with your name, email, phone number, where you're doing business is super helpful, because I can see by the names on here that we have agents from all over the area. So welcome to our meeting. And that will help you network. One other thing that we have in the works, and I will get out an invitation and kind of a flyer for this for you guys, is we're going to have a regional agent networking meeting on March 10th. And that is going to be broadcast on our regular Zoom call. So our More Money Monday, March 10th, will be a regional networking meetup for agents from Joseph's district, which is San Jose, David McKeever's area, which is the San Joaquin, my district here, which is Sacramento, Northern California, and then also the Reno agents in Reno, Nevada. So you guys can meet up with those agents as well, and kind of do some networking and hopefully do some business development on the outside of that after that meeting. Let me see. Okay, so Lawrence is on. Welcome, Lawrence. So I was just introducing you right before you jumped on. So Lawrence is based in the Bay Area mostly, right? He's like, you're gonna have to unmute yourself, my friend.
Yeah, Sacramento.
Okay. All right. And so he's been doing ADU sales and helping his clients with that. A lot of investors working on ADUs. And like I said, that meetup was really enlightening. We all had different specializations. And so I asked Lawrence to come on and share a little bit, because I think it's super relevant for most of us. With the way the California market is going, you're going to run into more ADUs, and what are the rules around putting them on properties and getting them permitted and walking through the process. So he's going to share some case studies and then do some Q&A for us. Right, Lawrence? Did I get that part right? Okay, 1 second. All right, so Lawrence, you should be able to present here, and we are recording and ready to go.
Got it. Thank you so much for having me. So let's see. Okay, just give me a second. Let me pull it up. Okay, and then apologize. Is the share? Okay, there it is. All right. Can we all see this, or?
I don't see it. Do you have a
Oh, you
slide
don't see
deck?
it yet. Okay, I have it up, but let's see.
There's multiple. Aha, yes, perfect.
There it goes.
Okay. Great. Okay, so we can see this. All right.
Yeah.
So this is my my company, Domo Built, based in Sacramento. And just a quick background, I've been doing ADUs for the last 3 years, and mostly in Sacramento. I have some clients in Bay Area. Decided to branch out kind of end of last year. And most of my clients are kind of real estate investors. So I came from a real estate investment background, and just I feel like we speak the same language, and I can really help investor figure out what is the highest best use of that particular property, and figure out whether the ADU is, it's the right fit or not. So I know I have limited amount of time today, and I just want to jump right in. Now, for those of us that don't know what ADU is, a very quick overview. It's really like you hear the terms like um, granny flats or tiny homes. It's really a secondary kind of attached dwelling on an existing property with a primary home. So anything, if there's like, let's say a tiny home just on the vacant land, that particular unit is not an ADU. It has to have a primary residence on site, and then the secondary one is considered an ADU. In California, it's typically between 150 square feet to 1,200 square feet. 150 is per the building code standard, but it's really, really small. So I think the smallest one I've done is about 240 square feet. Even that is about like a studio. So what are some of the requirements? It must have kitchen and bath, and then really an area to sleep, but they don't care whether it's a bedroom or studio. It needs to fit on the property with some setback, typically about 5 feet or 4 feet from the property lines, and that depends on the area you're located. And for the past 4 or 5 years, the ADU has really exploded in California just because the laws have been really popular. So, and it's continued to go in that direction. So it's exciting for all of us. So let's just kind of jump in with I'm going to present about 3 case studies. These are my clients, and why ADU is so powerful. So here's an example. This is for an investor. He built a 580 square foot ADU in his backyard. This is based in Sacramento, near the East Sac area. And he was able to get about $1,950 per month in rent. His payment is about $1,300. So he's cash flowing pretty nicely, about $650 a month. And the best part is he's also adding value to his existing property. Oh, okay.
Dead? Mom, is Milo dead?
Oh, Levon,
Got it.
do you want to mute? Okay, so that is one. I would say when I'm dealing with clients, I would say 50% are investor, and then the other 50% are like family related, which is the kind of case study number 2 and number 3 that I'll share with you. The very common is adult children, right? So in this particular case, this client decided she's based in Folsom. She's dealing with the dilemma that, hey, my son is still staying here. He wants to have some independence. I want to have some independence. Why don't we build an ADU? Because the payment is actually cheaper than if she were to contribute towards a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Folsom. Right. So here's kind of how the math plays out, right? So the payment for her ADU is about $1,400 a month. To rent a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Folsom, little under $2,000. So they were saving about $550 a month. But more importantly, they're also paying down that payment or that mortgage. So they're building up equity, right? So in 5-10 years, that money is actually going back. They can now reuse that equity, or one way. This is one way I explain to clients, like, hey, when you rent something, you're kind of giving that away. But when you're investing in your ADU, you're putting that money back into your own pocket. So, this particular homeowner is able to, give her son some independence, they save money, and then they also build equity over time.
Employment history.
And let's see. So the last one I want to share with you. This is more like for aging in place. So this particular one, it's a 749 square foot ADU. It's like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath ADU in Walnut Creek. The payment for this unit, recall about 2,200 a month. And so this particular client was looking at assisted living, and the cheapest they found is about 8,500 bucks a month in the Bay Area. So what they did is, hey, we're just going to build this ADU. Our parents are going to be really close by us, so we can kind of help out. Additionally, we can hire nurses that will come at an ad hoc basis rather than completely full time. So they're saving about $6,000 to like $8,000 a month by doing this. And not to mention, once again, they're also building additional equity. So as their parents, either, the parents they pass in the future, they could either rent it out, or, if ultimately they downsize or they want to sell this property, they'll get all that equity back. So these are kind of the three most common kind of clienteles that I encounter with. And now I think is most valuable is to leave time for Q&A if you have any questions for me.
I have a question.
Yes.
I get to be first because I'm not muted.
Yeah.
So real quick, so these projects,
Yeah.
from when they decided, hey, I want to add an ADU,
Yeah.
go to the county. Is that where they start, is going to the county for approvals, or how do you get?
Yeah. Good question. So it really depends. Like I provide a full service. So I literally, from when I meet with a client, I take them from start to finish, where we'll take care of all the design, the plans, right? Basically put together we call it the construction document, and that's the plans that you'll submit to the city to get a permit. And then I'll walk the client through the whole permit process until we get the approved permit. And then from there, we build it. So let's say if you are well informed, or you know how to deal with the permit process, you already have plans available, you can just go to the city or the county and say, hey, I want to submit this to get the approved permit, and then I want to, I have a local contractor that I trust and I want to work with that person, and that's how you would do it.
Some
I have a
counties
question.
have like prefab floor plans ready to go. Can you kind of talk about if you're
Yeah.
engaged with a county that has that? I think
Yeah.
that's an area here.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So as of January 1st of this year, the state of California passed a law that all cities and county must have pre-permitted plans available. Now everyone's on their own different pace, but what that means is you'll be able to select. They usually provide about 3 to 5 options, and you can look through those plans. Now, the good news about the pre-permitted plans is that you still need to hire like a drafter or architect to put together something called like the final plan, like the permit plans, right? So you still have to do site plan, and then the architect will put that pre-permitted plans on the site plan, and that's what you submit to the city. You will get your approved permit probably within a month. That's how fast, right? So from start to finish, if you use, let's say you're working with me and you're using a pre-permitted plans, we'll get your approved permit probably, like a month and a half, and then we'll literally break ground in construction. It'll take about 3.5 months to build the ADU. So from start to finish, it could be about 5 to 6 months. So here's the caveat with the pre-permit plans. You cannot change a single thing in terms of the structural layout. Now, the finishes, the colors, you have liberty to do that. But let's say the plans indicate, hey, this is the location for the window and the door. You cannot change it. You cannot change the size. You cannot change the height. Whatever is spec'd out, that's what it is, right? And so that's kind of, that's why when investors, they really care about the return on investment, right? Time is money. So they're like, hey, that's okay. We'll beautify this unit with finishes and colors and furniture, but we'll just get it done, right? But if you're building it more for families and like, hey, they really wanted to customize it, they say, you know what, the plan only called for a 9-foot ceiling. I really want a 10-foot ceiling, or I want a vaulted ceiling. So this is not going to work. What are some other issues? Sometimes the pre-permit plans, they're, it's not as a big deal in Sacramento because we have more land, but in Bay Area, a lot of clients, they're what they have available to build is really small, right? Sometimes we have to build like an L shape, or to be creative, we have to stack it, go 2-story, and no plans have a 2-story plans. So we just have to build custom in that case.
I have a question.
Of course, yeah.
Can you give us the ballpark idea of the cost to build?
Yeah. So let's just assume usually when I deal with my clients, it's kind of the good, better, best. And the price is really dictated by the finishes ultimately. But if you're in the kind of Sacramento area, you're probably looking about like $290 to $300 per square foot. If you're in the Bay Area, it's probably in the $320 per square foot. That just because the labor costs. And a lot of that is dictated by the labor costs. And yeah, so now it varies, right? It's, it depends. Like I run a smaller, more boutique shop, so my overhead's not as high as other people. So I can be extremely competitive, but a bigger companies might have to charge more. So, some of the Bay Area I've seen is $400 per square foot to $350, right? So it just depends. Also the location, how far they have to travel to that area. Yeah. Or they know the neighborhood. Hey, you're in the Silicon Valley area. We're gonna charge you for 450 per square foot. So yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you.
Lawrence, question.
Yes, absolutely.
So, are your clients, are there any financing options on this, or are they just paying cash to do
Yeah,
this?
no, good question. I would say 9 out of 10 of my clients are utilizing HELOC. So I have about
Yeah,
4
okay.
lenders that I work with. That's the easiest and the fastest way to do it. I only have one client where her property was completely pay off, and so what she did is she just did a kind of first like a
First one.
mortgage. Yeah, and that's the lowest rate, but yeah, 9 out of 10 is HELOC. That's the easiest.
I have a follow-up question, and maybe for Brad. Is Brad here?
Yeah.
Brad?
Yes,
Hey,
I am.
Brad, when let's say the client has the house and an ADU and they go to resell the property, are there any loan ramifications of having that second unit on the property?
Only if it's not permitted. So everything we're talking
Okay.
about with Lawrence is everything's fully permitted and everything's complete. So therefore you get full space offered for value. When it's not permitted, or you get some of these, conversions, that's when you run into problems on the loan side.
But is it considered a 2-unit loan then? Like a duplex for a first-time home
No,
buyers?
because that's where these ADUs, and Lawrence, you can speak to it, in detail if you want, but there's criteria that they need to have, but they can't have. And usually it's not splitting the APN. You're not giving it its own address. It's just more of a A and B slash. So all your utilities are still attached to one single address. Same with the
Got it.
USPS.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, that's a key point, is that a lot of times it's like, hey, is this a 2 separate unit? Like, no, it's still same APN. All the utilities are tied to the main house, right? That's why it's an accessory dwelling. It's to the main house. Now, here's the thing. You can get a separate, depends on the utility companies. You can get a separate meter for water or electrical. That's totally fine, but it's still the same APN. Here's something that people can do, and it's more just from so let's say I have clients that build an ADU, and the address will be like let's just say it's 123 Folsom Street. Okay, it could be 123 B Folsom Street, right? So there's like a form that you can fill out with the postmaster and saying, hey, this particular unit, the ADU is 123 Folsom Street, B. Some cities or counties will require you to provide like a newer address, but it doesn't mean on your tax, for tax purpose, it doesn't separate the APN. It just make it easier from a mailing perspective.
Mhm.
One thing maybe I'll touch on, it's people ask a lot. It's like, hey, I know there are these companies that do prefab, versus, because so all I do is stick built. I don't do any prefab, and part of the reason is that the value of prefab is still not quite as high as a stick built. And so for most of the investors, they're always looking at like, okay, if I'm spending $1, am I getting that dollar back? Right? If you're spending $1, the prefab, you might be, from a appraised value, you might be getting maybe 60% or 70% at best. So that's the thing where when I'm dealing with my investor clients, I said, hey, yes, you might be saving a little bit of money from upfront from the prefab, but you're not getting the long-term value from appreciation. Except if a client doesn't really care about refi in the future, right, or any kind of value, they just care about cash flow, and they're like, hey, well, I'm holding this for the next 50, 100 years, then go prefab, right? Because at that point, it doesn't matter. You're never going to cash out. You just care about your cash flow.
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
Because I think that makes the difference for some people of, should I go onto Amazon and go get a
Yep.
$20,000 ADU or no?
Right.
So Lawrence,
Yep.
question on the investor scenario.
Yeah.
Are these folks putting the ADUs on lots with the tenants that are already in place in the main house?
Yeah, most of them. Yeah. So Mhm. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so if that's the case, so you have a tenant renting a house and the property, and now you place an ADU on the property.
Yep.
Has there been any pushback from those tenants who, they say, hey, I rented this whole space. This is my whole backyard. And now you're cutting it in half, or now I'm
Yeah.
down to a third. Is there any reduction in that lease amount?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, absolutely. So that is something you may want to, as a landlord, you want to disclose that with the tenant, right? Let's say you just purchase a property, and with the intention to rent out the main house and build an ADU, you'll let the person know, like, hey, I'm building an ADU in the backyard, and this is the area you have access to. Normally, an investor, when they purchase that's why not all properties are perfect for ADU, right? For investment. Generally, I love properties that have alley access, right?
Yeah.
So you have, right, you have the main house can be accessed from the front, and then the ADU's access from the alley access. And so,
Yeah.
and then that also we will determine how we're going to build the fence to separate the two areas, right? So there are some houses that, in East Sacramento, they're historically, you have these really awkward long properties with alley access. That's actually my favorite now, because you can build an ADU in the back, and then the main house in the front. They're so far away, you don't even know they're actually they're on the same property. So when the fence is built the right way, you can really disguise that and control that experience. So, but yeah, disclosure, obviously, you got to let people know. And
I was just thinking more in terms of, we've had a tenant in place for 5 years, and now all of a sudden we want to place an ADU. It could affect that tenant, existing tenant.
Yeah, in that particular case, let's say the backyard is massive, and you want to, I mean, that will be something where you can have a conversation with a tenant saying, hey, I'm going to remove portion of this backyard. How do you feel of me, giving you a $300 credit every month? Or, because I'm going to build, or I'm going to give you a month of free rent because all the construction nuisance, the inconvenience. Most people will probably say, that's fine. I'll take them, So I think there's ways, as long as they're properly compensated, I think it's okay. Yeah. Oh, let me share something. That's actually, this is, so question is, what happens when all the utilities connected to the main house, right? So that's, and then how do you rent out the ADU? So this is what I tell clients. If they decide not to pursue getting a separate water or electrical meters, right? Because sometimes it can be really expensive. So this is what I said. What you need to do is all the rent would now needs to be all inclusive of water, electrical, and sewer, right? So your main house, whatever you rent that out, it could be 2,500. That includes everything. And same thing for the ADU. Right, because now and then as a landlord, you take care, you basically receive all the water, electrical, utility, and then you basically just pay for that. So that is something to consider.
Hey, Lawrence, does the ADU have to have solar on it?
Good question. Most of them now, yeah. I mean, the law says all ADUs must have solar unless the ADU is attached to the main house, or this is not really listed on any Google. Let's say if your ADU is really small and the justification for solar is not necessary, you can get an exemption during planning. There's also I had a client that was in Fair Oaks. There were just so much trees, foliage over the ADU. They can't really get any sunlight anyway, right? So we were able to petition that saying, all right, that's fine. You guys don't need to put solar on that. So there's cases that you can get away with it. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi. I have one question. I heard like you can separate like you can request the APN and you can sold the ADU as a separate property in California right now. They have like, is there any provision like that?
Yeah. So yes. I think it's called it's the Assembly Bill 1033 that allows you to sell the ADU off as like a separate dwelling. Here's the thing though, the county or the city would need to opt into that. So it's a city by and county, case by case situation. I think San Diego is trying to do that. So they're trying to opt into that program and allow people to do it. But let's say if you're like in Sacramento, they haven't opted in, so you just can't do it yet. But the assembly bill was passed last year, allow you to do that, which is, man, really a game changer. Ultimately, what happened is you have to establish this property as a condominium, and then you have an HOA board, and within this property, you have to determine what's the common area and how is everyone contributing to maintain the common area. And so you can now sell off an ADU almost like a condo. Same thing, and then the primary residence will be sell off as a condo. So it makes financing easier because now the finance world understand what condominium is versus ADU is still kind of like this new animal. Does that answer your question?
What was the law code on that?
Yeah, I think it's AB 1033.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, yeah, that's I was looking for. Thank you for info.
Yeah. Maybe I'll jump in. There's another one that's kind of interesting that I have investors doing quite a bit. It's called SB9. So SB9 is it's called a lot split. It allows you to, let's say you buy a property that's an acre, has a single family home dwelling on it. You're now, when you split that lot, right in the middle, now all of a sudden you can build another single family home on the separate lot, and you can build an ADU there, and you can build the ADU with the original property. So you just turn a single family home into a fourplex. So SB9 is a really powerful tool if it's done right. And here's another thing, you can get the SB9 done probably within 5 to 6 months, and it doesn't require any like a town meeting. As long as it fits all the rules, it will get approved, right? Right now, if you were to buy like a lot, an empty lot that's zoned commercial, and you want to subdivide it, It has to go through all kinds of town meeting, and people can say, no, I don't like this project. And one person can literally destroy that entire project. But with SB9, there's no objection. As long as you fit all the rules, the criteria, they will have to approve it. Any other questions for me at this point? Okay. Well, how are we doing? Because I think I got about 30,
You
Krista,
did
about
really
30.
well. Yeah, like we're right at 12:30.
Yeah, I want to be respectful of your time. So
No, I
yeah.
think this was super helpful. This is, I think, a really timely topic, and Rajan asked some questions, and Laura and David, that I had as well. So I think, you know, navigating this is a kind of a new cottage industry, but it's going to grow. So you for sure are helping us kind of get a little more detail there. Where, you know, if you wanted to look at doing part of this as your market, and the business that you grew looks great. How many of these do you think, the ones that you've already done, have you had them already sold out or refied, or any, like, what have you seen on the properties?
Yeah. I haven't had any clients that refied just because the rates are still not that great. Most of them, they have just gotten HELOC to complete the projects, right? And so they haven't really hit the 4 to 5, 6 year mark yet. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I'm paying quite a bit of attention to how ADU is going to impact the listing price. So maybe this is the last thing I'll share. When technically, when you list a property, let's say your main house is 2,000 square feet and the ADU is 1,000 square feet. People are doing this, but it's really not the right way. Sometimes the listing will say, oh, it's a 3,000 square foot home with 5 bedroom, 3 bath. But really, that's not the case, right? The ADU, it's 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and then the maybe. So it really affects the value, right? Because let's say you're in the Bay Area and the area could be $1,000 per square foot. All of a sudden you just added, 1,000 square foot of value. That's like $1,000,000. That's not how the appraiser is going to appraise that property. What they're going to do is say, oh no, you have a 2,000 square foot house plus 1,000 square foot ADU, and we're going to appraise that separately. So that's the thing. It's like, people really, the investors like, well, how much? Okay, I'm going to spend $200,000 on this. What am I going to get out of it in 5 years? It's still hard to tell, right? Because there's still not enough comps out there where there's a lot of homes with the ADU that are being sold. However, the ones that we've seen, all the value have shown like, hey, has gone up. And it just depends on the area and how the ADU is done. If it's done really well, in fact, sometimes you probably get 2x out of your investment. But my general rule of thumb is you're getting a 1-to-1 value right away, but you're getting the appreciation. I mean, if you're trying to flip it, it's not a good idea. But if you hold it for 5, 7 years, I think it's either a base hit or a home run, depends on the area, and you're getting the cash flow. Yeah.
I have one more questions. I think you already answered it, maybe.
Okay.
So like most of the time client asking us like I'm planning to build like 2 bedroom like ADU like 400 square feet each maybe, for example, and they're asking how much it costs. Do you have any idea or something like, and like do you have any kind of resource or like rough things so we can tell them it might cost around like these things?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned it's about, if you're in the Sacramento area, probably $290 to $300 per square foot, to Bay Area $320 to $350. The part that's really difficult to answer is the utility connection, right? Because every property is different. So you could be on a 5-acre lot and then your utility connection is really far. Now your utility connection could cost you 30 to 50 grand because you're on the 5-acre lot versus something you're really next to your neighbor all your sewer, water, electrical hookup is literally 20 feet away. Maybe that's only like $10,000 for the hook connection. So that's the X factor. As when you're talking to your clients, you're like, hey, this is the general price per square foot to build the unit, but then there's additional fee on the utility connection. That's the hardest part. So if I would never, like, if someone say, oh yeah, I'll give you well, if you give me an address, I can usually give you a pretty good ballpark on how much that's going to cost, because I'll look at all the potential utility connection where that is. But the most accurate is, I still really have to go on site to see how we're going to connect your sewer, if there's any issues, where is the water meter, all that. So, but a general rule of thumb, that's, the price that I shared earlier is probably pretty accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I appreciate your time. That was very helpful. I really like the slide deck too. It gives us, a good example of what can be done, what the possibilities are, and the guidance you give is really, really great. Is your contact information I see the website there. If somebody
Yep.
wanted to ask you more questions or meet up
Yeah,
with you.
feel free to share kind of my info. I'm happy to help anybody. Yeah. If you're, even if you're already working with someone else, you want a second opinion, I'm happy to help. I'm just want to provide value.
Cool, awesome. All right, and Brad, on the lending side, anything to watch for?
No, not necessarily anything to watch for. Because when Lawrence is done, it's fully permitted, it's fully ready to go. So, I think the only kicker there is to what Lawrence was talking about at the end. It's having the right expectations so that you don't go into this thinking you're adding, dedicated living space to your house and getting, looking for that value back. Appraisers, depending on the area, it depends on a lot of factors like Lawrence was mentioning, but they do have preset factors that they use for ADUs, and that can be ranging between 50 and 100 grand. So obviously, depending on the area, your cost per square foot to build and then also appraise can be totally different from that. Now, of course, they can make adjustments on those areas, but that's kind of the rule of thumb for an ADU.
Okay. All right, so Lawrence, did you put your contact info in the chat? I don't know.
I'll do that right now. Yep.
I appreciate that.
Got it.
Okay, so thank you again for taking the time. I think this was well worth everyone's time to do. This has been recorded, so I will send out the recording for you all. And then you can reach out to Lawrence if you have got further questions and want to discuss doing ADUs. I think he's a super good resource, and we appreciate you taking the time. All right, everyone else, as I said, in 2 weeks out, More Money Monday, March 10th, we will be doing a regional agent networking event with all our NorCal agents. So please plan to be on that as well. We'll be giving away some swag and some other things. And we'll also be connecting with our Reno agents too. So if you're dual licensed or want to do some business up in the Tahoe, Reno area, be a good time to jump on. So I'll be sending that out. Look for that, and we will see you next Monday. Have a great week.
It's great seeing everybody.
All right, bye guys.